Okay, and I'm just going to do one more video in this sort of series. The these things are not just affecting these people that are in these towns. And like I said before, this can be your town. This can be you next, easily, very easily be you next. So the range of people affected by this hasn't even been recognized yet. Even though people are reporting hundreds of miles away, they're having problems with all kinds of different things. So it's just very weird, man. Just to be aware of, that this is going on, that this is happening, because what they want you to do is they want you to just hear in the background that everything's okay. And then you just keep on going about your day in 15-second increments. And that's how they've got everybody living in 15-second increments. I didn't even mention the dead wildlife. Guys, they supposedly counted 44,000 dead wildlife, right? That's so much horseshit. Who the fuck's sitting there counting 44,000 animals? Dead animals. That's just so stupid, man. But yeah, supposedly that's the number they're putting out. But yeah, there's been so many videos of dead animals and fish and wildlife. The other thing to keep in mind is there are crisis actors there too. There are most certainly crisis actors there. I saw an interview with this one person who said that he's originally from Florida, but he was making this his home, just weird, And when you hear weird shit like that, it's because of something fucking weird's going on, Now maybe he was running from the law or something. I don't know, but I don't think so. I think now that it makes sense is that he was probably a crisis actor. He's probably up there acting. So I don't know how much of this is even true. They just did this fucking movie there. You know what I mean? So it's hard to say, like, how much of the percentage of that population in that area right now are even authentic fucking people, which I would imagine, people living on farms and homes and generations there and with families, I would imagine. But it's hard to say, guys. People get bought out. If the government comes to people and say, hey, we'll buy your house, we'll pay your house off. That was just something else about Sandy Hook, that where people started finding shit out was because of the housing. They started looking at all the deeds and the titling and how everything got bought out. So, just things to think about. And then, of course, with all of that comes demons and spells and nasty shit, man. Because again, this is all by gematria. This is all spells. This is all rituals, and the people who died and are harmed and all that. That's spell casting, guys. It's all sacrifices. It's all programming. With the movies and the entertainment, they wrap it all in together, and then the and then your consent is given by just your distraction. That's how I think it works. I'm not for sure, but that's why I think this I do not consent, I do not comply is so powerful, because they're constantly getting you, whether you realize it or not. You're constantly consenting to shit because with all this entertainment, with all this phone stuff and all these things out there and distractions, we're constantly being aware of situations where if we were there and we could do something, it was within our power to do something, we would do something, but we're not. So like this thing in Ohio, it's like people are like, oh, well, sending my love, sending my prayers. And then all they have to hear is from Trump 3 weeks later, they're fine, we're taking care of it. And then people forget about them, so you're consenting because you, as a human, you said you cared. You said it was something that was big and that you threw attention to. But think about it. Something that's affecting possibly millions of people in our country right now. And, obviously 44,000 dead wildlife. We definitely got a solid number on that one. And yet you can only give a hope and a prayer to it, and then you're on to your celebrities and you're on to your fucking distractions. And so that's where I think, so this is wrapping into something important. I'm putting something together that I've been trying to verbalize. And so I think we're giving our consent. I had to finish out my letter there. So I think we're giving our consent by we're giving our attention to it, so we understand that there's a situation going on, but then being so quickly distracted, and instead of going off of our humanity and following up with something, just going off of what one of our idols, which is again another something that we shouldn't have. Our authorities are telling us everything's okay, so then we use that as an excuse to just go on with our lives. And this is important, This is the part of being a human, guys, that I think is being overlooked, especially in this society. Yeah, I think that is such a huge part that's being overlooked in our society. Yeah. And guys, I didn't even mention, like, they've had people from the railroads come in with paperwork to the people's homes and try to get them to sign non-disclosure, all kinds of agreements to try to get them to shut up. They're trying. So I believe, I'm not saying this whole thing is just a stage. I believe there are true, real people being hurt. And I'm saying that that's bad. Can you imagine being in that situation? Like, to have that happen and then have the whole world looking at you real quick and then thinking you're okay, but nothing changed and you're still sitting in your situation. And now the only thing you have is a bunch of crisis actors probably acting like loony bins around you. And then government, that's disgusting. That's a bad atmosphere to be in. I can only imagine, like, the toxicity. Not just from the chemicals, the toxicity from the entities, from the energies, from the rituals, from the sacrifices, from all this shit going on, guys. This is a lot of shit. Like, I'm surprised people are even functioning. And a lot of people, the people who can leave, have left. Like, the people who are monetarily able and capable of leaving, they have left. The people who are stuck are stuck. They're like me and you. It's like, fuck, well, where am I going to go? I'm just going to have to put a bag on my back and take a hike and go hike somewhere else. And hopefully they don't get a train wreck. You know what I mean? So that's what I mean. Like, when I say we're all in this together, like, you're only one train wreck away from this shit. We got train tracks all over down here. And supposedly, this stuff happens all the time, guys. This stuff gets covered up. And you think, like, with all the different diseases and everything going on, and they supposedly they don't have an answer for all these doctors, but they say want to give you pills. Think about all these chemicals. Think about all these frequencies. Think about this shit. This is common sense. And they're covering it up and saying it's caused by viruses, and saying that, this demon bugs and viruses and, all this crazy stuff, when it's really simple. It's our extremely toxic way of living. We are beautiful, pure souls born into an extremely toxic, trauma-filled environment, beaten into cookie-cutter citizens, and immediately put on programs. And these programs that we're put on is what, in the beating that we take throughout our lives into submission, is what allows this kind of shit to happen. You know what I mean? Because as real humans, we would never let this kind of shit happen. But they've got us so stretched and dragged out and distracted in so many different areas and things, and has our attention it's ridiculous. And a lot of it comes from this material culture. Everything you possess possesses you, so it owns part of you. That's why when something like this happens, you can't even pay attention. You're like, won't you guys please just, President, just give him some money and shut him up. You know what I mean? You guys don't care. That's what I'm saying. That is not human. That needs healing, and that's what I'm focusing on, and that's what I'm trying to bring up. And other things I haven't even brought up yet, like the testing, guys, they halted testing. Who the hell's doing the testing? The testing is being done they just found out this out. The testing that's all been done in the past 3 weeks is all being done by like 2 companies that are known, that have been proven over and 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 over for bad practices and being bought off and saying whatever whoever pays them the most money wants them to say, they'll say it. These are the testing companies that are in Ohio right now. You know, I haven't even touched on that. I haven't even touched on the stop shipments. These shipments of all this toxic waste has been stopped, has been halted because these other states are going, fuck you. What are you doing? You're not sending that shit here. So this is all happening right here, right now. If you guys want something to get involved in, and be careful, you know, like I said, like this stuff is ritualistic. Like you want to be careful. You don't want to feed it too much attention. Like, I don't know, like I'm sharing like things that are like my own little secrets. Like I haven't been able to share because nobody wants to hear this crazy shit. You know what I mean? So these are my own little secrets to like how I do this stuff. And I do realize like you got to be careful of giving it energy. You can't give it any more power. You know, like it can't be turned into just a sideshow. It has to be a human thing. Like if you're going to give it so much energy, you better be sending it attention and energy. Like that means something. That is what it's all about. Your donations, your money, send it to some charity organization. Unless you are sending it directly to like boots on the ground journalists who are showing you what they're doing with their money. Or in some way validating, you know, how much money's coming in, it's fine if they're asking for money. But if they're getting tens of thousands of dollars and it's only 2 people and they don't need that kind of money and they're just putting it in their bank accounts so they can take a vacation next week, you know what I mean? You got to be careful, man. So, you know, we got to be responsible with our knowledge and with our wisdom, you know? Because like I said, there are a lot of demons and spells, and just because you think you're wise and you're slick and you got to be careful, man, because they set these scenarios up to catch souls who fall into these ego traps, you know, souls in humans who think they are doing the right thing, but it's very easy. There's a thin line between doing the right thing and virtue signaling. You know what I mean? And you know what I mean. Like Trump going there with truckloads of water, whatever the fuck he did. The people were like, they interviewed some guy today and he's like, you know, that really didn't do it. We had plenty of people bringing us water. You know, we got tons of water. They don't have a water problem. They got tons of bottled water. So, you know what I mean? And it's just that fake ass virtue signaling, man. And that's all it is. And the other thing I haven't even mentioned yet is the new drivers. Guys, I don't know if you've noticed over the past couple years, but there's the tractor trailers on the road are all over the fucking road all the time. It's never been like this. I'm 43. My whole life, the tractor trailers have never driven this horribly. Maybe back in the 80s when I was a kid and they were all coked up, but I don't really remember that. But the tractor trailers had never driven this horribly. You know, they drove just like out of my industry, the construction industry. They drove these men who were good at what they did and didn't get the respect they deserved and put in the long hours and did what they had to do to keep this machine running. They crushed most of those guys recently in the past few years, and those guys have either retired, died, you know, whatever, quit. And so what it's taken over is a bunch of these kids that are jumping from job to job to job. One day they're working at your grocery store. Next day they're on the road driving a tractor trailer. Next day they're working in your home fixing your light bulbs. You know what I mean? That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But what I'm saying is that's the type of people that are when I say a majority, like I can't even stress enough. Like if you guys don't do a lot of over the road driving and having to drive on highways and see these tractor trailers in the past 3 years, it's been horrible. I'm scared to death of these tractor trailers. These guys are all over the fucking road. They have no morals, no ethics as tractor trailer drivers anymore. Very rare. Very rare. You can tell the old heads when you see them driving. They're driving very responsibly. And look, guys, if you're a young driver, I'm not trying to beat you up. I'm not saying, but the majority of what I'm saying is keep on doing a good job. I mean, because dude, the majority of these cocksuckers aren't. And not only that, but a majority of them, they aren't even. Think about this. They can't. Just like with my industry, there's nobody to hire. So guess where the majority of these new recruits are coming from? When they're not the American spoiled kids who are jumping around from job to job to job to job, right? Guess who they are? They're foreigners who don't even speak English, driving hazmat trucks. Guess what happens when they flip over a truck? They go to jail, they get deported, they don't care. That's what I'm saying. These are things to think about, guys. Just things to think about. These are the things that matter. And this is part of getting my cognitive dissonance out, is getting this stuff out of my head. Is because, man, if you guys can't see this stuff for what it is, that's what I'm trying to say. It's crazy out there. It is nuts out there. And just remember, I do not consent, I do not comply. 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 Fuck you, I don't consent and I don't comply. Use that, guys. That is powerful. I'm telling you, because I think they're getting us to consent by constantly deviating our attention through all of this muck, and us just... It hardens our soul. It hardens our ability to be a human. It hardens our emotions. It hardens our ability to connect. Important things to think about, guys.